Part 4, National Theatre School. I had started researching National Theatre School while I was still in secondary school at Sardis. It was, and still is, an exceptional training facility for people interested in pursuing the performing arts. Similar to the Phoenix Theatre program at UVic, the National Theatre School of Canada, or NTS for short, covers all the performing arts disciplines, including acting, production, design and technical arts, set and costume design, playwriting, and directing. But for actors, NTS is the place to go. And if you're serious about theater, you audition for them. They typically held auditions for actors in the spring, and I remember that I was too young to audition for them when I was in secondary school. I'm a Gemini, and I wouldn't be 18, the minimum age, until the end of May, when auditions had already passed. But I turned 18 by the time I was at UVic, and when auditions rolled by towards the end of my first year with the Phoenix Theater, I thought, why not give it a shot? If nothing else, it's good practice to audition for something so prestigious with such high stakes. I had heard that some of the panel members had seen our production of Zastrozzi, which had just finished its run as I was preparing for the audition. I had prepared the same audition pieces I used when I auditioned for a production of Grease. I'd used them a few times, and they'd always been very well received. I also wanted to give them some Shakespeare and something written by a French-Canadian playwright, so I also prepared a Michel Tremblay piece, which I hadn't done before. I spent a lot of time in the dance studio at Phoenix Theater, practicing in the mirror and taking dance breaks in between to ease my nerves and break up the tension. I brought a boombox with me to play music to dance to. I liked rehearsing this way, in private. Or so I thought. One evening when I was rehearsing, Rourke, who was a third-year acting student by this time, snuck into the dance studio and quietly sat in the corner watching me. Rourke had played Verezzi in our recent production of Zastrozzi, so I knew him. But I wouldn't say he's a friend. So I was a little bit alarmed when I caught him staring at me. "What are you doing here?" I asked him. "I just wanted to watch you dance," he said, as if sneaking in and spying on me was a totally normal thing to do. "Well, don't. I'm not trying to perform for you," I said. "You don't have to. Just keep doing what you were doing," he says, smirking. I start to get irritated. "No, I'm preparing something. I would prefer to do that privately." "Let me help you," he says back to me. Now, bear in mind, Rourke is a rather large, very attractive dude, but like Jerry, is significantly older than me, which, as I'd mentioned, makes even more difference when you're only 18 years old. And I'm preparing a very important audition that I don't necessarily want anyone else to know about. And then he says, "If you're auditioning for NTS, I have an in there. I can get you in there," he says coolly while staring directly at my chest. I really don't need Rourke knowing my business, nor do I feel that I need his help. So I say, "I don't know what you're talking about, but you need to leave so I can finish up what I'm working on." He gives me a somewhat confused look, but then gets up to leave. "Suit yourself," he says as he walks out of the studio and closes the door behind him. The day of the audition arrives, and I feel prepared and ready. As I introduce myself, I imagine that the panel looks at me with mild curiosity and maybe a touch of amusement, since I can't actually see them. I decided to start with the Michel Tremblay piece, a selection that was on their list and felt like a safe place to start. I didn't try to fake a French-Canadian accent, and I spoke French how I speak French. After I finished that piece, they simply said thank you and asked for the second piece, which was the selections from Grease. As I get about two-thirds of the way through singing There Are Worse Things I Could Do, which crushed when I did it in the show, by the way, they stop me, say thank you again, and ask for the final piece, which is a selection from Macbeth. Now, I should mention that of all the Shakespeares, I love Macbeth, and have always wanted to play Lady Macbeth. So I chose one of my favorite monologues and practiced it to the point where I was really satisfied with it. And when I performed it for the panel, despite feeling a bit rattled after being cut off before I even finished the first song, I really felt like I nailed it. For the third time, they just said, thank you, and the dreaded, we'll be in touch. And just like that, my audition was over. I got my Dear John letter from NTS a few months later. Thanks, but no thanks, with some particularly harsh feedback. They hated my Michel Tremblay, and especially my accent. They thought that my singing voice was, and I quote, utterly toneless. And they thought that I was way too young to even attempt Lady Macbeth. It was a solid, it's no for me, dog, across the board. Unanimous decision. It's not us, it's you. That feedback knocked the wind out of my sails in a way that I never really recovered from because I had no one I could trust enough to talk to about it. I never told anyone that I auditioned or that I had been so soundly rejected until I put this pen to this paper. And it hurts to this day, just writing about it now. What happened? How could there have been such a disparity between what I thought I did and what they saw? Did Rourke have anything to do with the outcome? Because I rebuffed him instead of accepting whatever help he planned to offer? I'll never know for sure. But this was definitely the tipping point, the beginning of when I stopped seeing theater, acting, and performing in general as viable career options for me.